The jungle was alive that morning, a chorus of chirping birds, rustling leaves, and the soft hum of wind brushing against the treetops. Sunlight spilled through the thick canopy in golden beams, touching the forest floor in little patches of warmth. Deep among the trees, a strange wooden creature wandered, his long, thin legs creaking slightly with every step. His smooth, light orange wooden skin shimmered faintly in the sun, and his droopy brown eyes scanned the jungle with curiosity. He wasn't human, nor entirely of the forest. He was something in between, a talking wooden being carved long ago from the oldest tree in the jungle. Some animals whispered he was a spirit. Others thought he was a lost toy given life. But for him, life was simple: to explore, to feel, and to care. That morning, as he walked near a quiet stream, a faint sound stopped him in his tracks. It wasn't the wind nor a bird. It was sharper, a cry, small, desperate, weak. He tilted his wooden head, his thick, curved eyebrows lifting in concern. He murmured softly, his wooden voice creaking like branches swaying in wind. "Who's out there?" The sound came again, a trembling, terrified whimper. He followed it, stepping carefully over fallen logs and leaves, his oversized wooden feet pressing softly into the damp earth. The closer he got, the clearer it became. It was the cry of a baby animal. Finally, he parted a curtain of ferns and froze. Before him, in a small clearing, was a tiger cub, no older than a few weeks. Its orange fur was dirty, tangled with twigs and dust, and one of its small legs was caught tightly in a metal trap. The cub whimpered again, its golden eyes wide with fear. The wooden creature's wooden chest seemed to ache. "Oh, you poor little one," he whispered. He knelt down slowly, his long wooden fingers trembling. "Humans did this, didn't they? Always leaving their pain behind." He tried to reach closer, but the cub hissed, a weak, defensive sound. "I won't hurt you," he said gently, his droopy eyes full of sadness. "I promise. I just want to help." He looked around. No humans, no hunters. Just trees, silence, and the small breathing of a frightened creature. His mind raced. He needed to free it, but the trap looked sharp. One wrong move and he might damage the cub's leg forever. So he sat down quietly beside it, lowering his wooden face near the ground. "Shh, it's okay," he murmured, letting his soft wooden hand hover near the cub so it could sniff. Slowly, the cub blinked, trembling less. A connection formed, fragile but real. He looked at the rusty trap again. "We'll get you out," he said softly. "You're not alone anymore." The wind passed through the trees, whispering above them. For the first time, the tiger cub stopped crying. It just looked up at the strange wooden creature, with eyes full of fragile hope. And in that moment, the jungle felt like it was holding its breath. The tiger cub's soft cries echoed faintly through the trees, blending with the whispering wind. The wooden creature sat quietly beside it, his smooth wooden fingers tracing the outline of the cruel metal trap. Every time the cub twitched or whimpered, his droopy eyes blinked slowly with sorrow. He could hear the faint heartbeat of the jungle, the rustle of distant leaves, the trickle of water, the faraway call of a bird. But here, in this small clearing, everything felt still. Only the sound of the cub's trembling breath filled the silence. The trap was crude, made of cold iron, and bound tight around the cub's leg. Blood had begun to stain the fur, and the wooden creature winced at the sight. His wooden hands hovered uncertainly over it. "You poor thing. This shouldn't have happened to you," he whispered softly. He looked down at his own hands, long, carved, but strong. He could feel the old tree's strength inside him. Maybe, just maybe, that strength could be used to help. The cub flinched when he touched the metal. "It's okay," he murmured again, his wooden voice like the groan of a gentle wind through old branches. I'll be careful. I promise. He pushed softly at the trap's edge, testing its movement. It wouldn't budge. The metal had rusted into the earth. The creature frowned, his thick eyebrows bending down in worry. Stubborn little beast, he muttered to himself. The cub whimpered again. It tried to pull its leg away, but the sharp edge of the trap cut deeper. The creature quickly placed his wooden hand over the cub's paw, not pressing, just enough to say, "You're not alone." "Shh. Don't move, little one," he said. "Let me think." He looked around. There had to be something, some way to loosen it. His wooden eyes scanned the forest floor and found a small vine, thick and strong. He wrapped it around one end of the trap and pulled gently, but his wooden arms weren't strong enough to open the rusted jaws. He stopped, sighing softly, his wooden shoulders drooping. "I'm not giving up," he whispered. "I never give up." He turned to the cub again. The animal looked at him with glassy eyes, a mix of fear and trust. For a creature that didn't understand words, it somehow understood that this wooden being meant no harm. "Once upon a time," he began quietly, "I was stuck too, not in a trap like yours, but inside my own fear." He chuckled faintly, a dry wooden sound. "Then the forest helped me. Maybe now it's my turn to help someone else." The cub blinked slowly, its tiny chest rising and falling. The creature smiled softly. "You listen well," he said. He placed both wooden hands on the trap again. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Old roots, old strength. Lend me your power." The forest seemed to hush. Even the wind stopped for a second. A faint, golden glow passed through his wooden arms like sunlight running through tree veins. The metal groaned, a creak, a twist, then stopped. He gasped. "It's working!" The cub whimpered again, sensing change. The creature gritted his wooden teeth, pushing harder. But before the trap could open, the vine snapped. The force threw him backward into a patch of grass. He lay there, dazed, staring up at the sunlight flickering through leaves. For a moment he felt weak, his purpose slipping. Then he heard it. The cub's faint cry again. He turned his head. The cub was still there, still trapped, still believing in him. He sat up slowly. "All right," he said with a tired smile. "Round two." He dusted off his wooden knees and walked back toward the cub, determination flickering in his large brown eyes. "You trusted me once," he whispered. "Don't stop now." And this time, as he reached for the trap again, the forest itself seemed to lean closer, watching, waiting, breathing with him. The sunlight had shifted, golden warmth turning faintly orange as the afternoon began to settle in. The wooden creature still knelt by the tiger cub, his long arms trembling slightly from his failed attempt to open the trap. His wooden fingers brushed over the cub's fur again, softly wiping away a small tear from its eye. "It's okay," he murmured. "I'm not leaving until you're free." The cub blinked, its tiny body weak but calmer now. Its breathing slowed, as if it could feel his promise deep inside. The creature looked around again. Something in the jungle felt different. The air had changed. The sounds of birds and insects had gone quiet. Even the trees stood still as though holding their breath. He turned his wooden head slowly, his droopy brown eyes narrowing. "Something's wrong," he whispered. Then faintly, a snap. A twig breaking, he froze. His heart, or whatever replaced it inside his wooden chest, seemed to stop. Another sound followed. Footsteps, heavy, human, hunters. The creature clenched his long wooden fingers into fists. "No," he whispered. "They're coming back!" The cub began to tremble again, sensing danger. It tried to crawl away, but the trap still held its leg firmly. The wooden creature leaned closer and whispered urgently, "Don't move, little one. Please, I'll get you out before they see us." He searched the ground and found a sharp stone. It wasn't much, but maybe, just maybe, it could pry open the rusted edge. He pressed the stone under one side of the trap and pushed. The trap groaned. A spark flew. The metal bent slightly. Yes, come on, he whispered. Another snap, closer this time. Voices now. Human voices. Check the traps near the stream. One shouted, "If we caught something big, it'll fetch a good price," said another. The creature's wooden skin seemed to stiffen. He could feel his body tremble with a strange fear. Not for himself, but for the cub. He turned his head toward the approaching sound. Through the trees he could see shadows, men carrying rifles, nets, and sacks. He whispered to himself, "You have to be fast." He grabbed the trap again, wedging the stone deeper into the hinge. The cub whimpered in pain but didn't pull away. The creature's face tightened. "I know it hurts," he whispered, "but you're brave." Just a little more. The trap cracked slightly, a thin opening forming. He pushed harder, his wooden arms creaking under pressure. The smell of rust filled the air. And then, a loud metallic snap. The trap broke open. The cub cried out, but then looked down. Its leg was free. Blood-stained fur, trembling paw, but free. The wooden creature smiled weakly. "You did it, little one," he whispered, his eyes soft and wet with relief. But there was no time to celebrate. The hunters were now only a few trees away. The creature could hear their boots crunching through dry leaves. He gently lifted the cub in his wooden arms. The tiger cub whimpered softly but didn't resist. "Shh," he said, holding it close. "We have to go." Quietly, he looked around. The forest path was open on one side, but too exposed. The only way out was through the thick undergrowth near the river. The hunters' voices were clearer now. "There's blood here," one shouted. The trap caught something. "Maybe it's still close." The creature's wooden heart thudded. He turned and began to move quickly through the vines, his bare wooden feet silent on the earth. Every step echoed like a whisper. "Save him! Save him! Save him!" Behind him, the men's voices grew louder. The jungle, sensing danger, began to stir again. Birds flew, leaves trembled, and the wind howled softly as if urging him forward. He clutched the cub tighter and whispered, "The forest will protect us. It always does." And somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled as if the jungle itself had answered his call. The wooden creature ran, his long, thin legs pounding softly against the forest floor, carrying the tiger cub close to his chest. The cub was small, trembling, its wounded paw pressed gently against the creature's polished wooden body. Behind them, the angry shouts of hunters tore through the still air. "Over there!" "I saw something move," one yelled. The creature didn't look back. His droopy brown eyes were fixed on the path ahead, if there even was a path. The jungle had thickened, roots twisting across the ground like sleeping snakes, vines dangling from above like warning hands. Branches slapped against his wooden shoulders, leaving faint scratches, but he didn't stop. "Hold on, little one," he whispered, his wooden voice trembling. "We'll be safe soon." The cub gave a small whine, pressing closer. Its heartbeat thudded weakly against his chest. He could feel the forest watching, every leaf, every insect, every tree, aware of his desperate run. For a creature made of wood, he was part of them, one of their own. And the jungle seemed to respond. A gust of wind swept through the trees, sending a shower of leaves down like camouflage. He darted beneath a fallen log, crouching low as the hunter's footsteps drew nearer. "There's blood here," one muttered, his boots crunching on dry twigs. "Then it's close," said another. The creature held his breath. The cub stayed still in his arms. Through the tangle of vines he could see the hunters, 3 of them, searching the bushes, their rifles glinting faintly in the dim light. He looked up. Above him, thick vines hung like ropes. If he could climb, maybe they could lose the trail. His long wooden fingers reached up and gripped the vine. It felt strong. "All right," he whispered. "Up we go!" He pulled himself upward, the cub held tightly against him. The vine creaked under his weight, but his wooden limbs were steady. Slowly, silently, he climbed until they reached a branch thick enough to rest on. He crouched there, hidden among leaves, while the hunters moved below. For a moment, everything went still again. The only sound was the soft patter of raindrops beginning to fall from a grey sky. The first drop landed on his wooden hand. Then another. Then the rain came down harder, soaking the forest in silver streaks. The hunters cursed and covered their heads, their fire torches sputtering out. "Let's get back. We'll check again in the morning," one shouted. Their footsteps faded slowly into the distance, leaving only the sound of rain. The wooden creature exhaled a deep sigh of relief. "They're gone," he whispered. He looked down at the cub, who blinked up at him with tired eyes. "You did well. Very brave." He gently adjusted the cub in his arms and began to climb down the other side of the tree. The ground was slippery, the air heavy with the smell of wet leaves and earth. He could feel the cub's warmth fading. He found a small hollow beneath a massive tree root, dry, hidden, safe. He laid the cub down gently on the soft moss. "There," he said softly. "Rest here. I'll find something to clean your wound." He tore a broad leaf from a nearby plant and dipped it in rainwater, using it to wipe the cub's leg. The cub whimpered but didn't resist. "You're going to make it," he murmured, his voice low and full of care. "The forest protects those who belong to it." Thunder rumbled again in the distance. Lightning flashed, illuminating his wooden face, tired, scratched, but full of quiet determination. He leaned back against the root, holding the cub close to keep it warm. Rain pattered above them like a soft lullaby. The danger wasn't over yet, but for now they were safe. And as he looked at the sleeping cub in his arms, the wooden creature smiled faintly. "Oh, you're free," he whispered. "And tomorrow we'll find your family." Outside, the rain washed away the hunters' scent, erasing their trail. The jungle, alive and kind, had chosen its side. When the first light of dawn crept through the jungle canopy, it touched the wooden creature's face like a soft blessing. The rain had stopped sometime in the night, and now the forest glistened, every leaf holding a droplet of gold. Mist floated over the ground like breath, and the world smelled clean again. The creature opened his heavy wooden eyelids, blinking slowly. For a moment he didn't move. His body ached from the long night, his arms stiff from holding the cub close. Then he looked down and smiled. The tiger cub was still asleep, its tiny chest rising and falling softly. Its wound had stopped bleeding, wrapped gently in a leaf bandage he'd made from forest herbs. It was safe. He exhaled deeply, a creaky sound like a tree stretching after a storm. "You made it, little one," he whispered, his wooden voice warm with relief. "You're stronger than you look." The cub stirred, letting out a small yawn. Its amber eyes blinked open, looking up at him with trust that hadn't been there the day before. The creature's droopy eyes softened. "Good morning," he said softly. "We've got a long way to go." He looked around. The rain had erased every trace of the hunter's tracks. The air was alive again with the calls of birds and distant chattering monkeys. The forest was awake and kind. The creature stood, his long wooden legs creaking slightly. He stretched his arms toward the sunlight streaming through the leaves. "Thank you," he whispered, as though speaking to the trees themselves. "For keeping us safe." He picked up the cub carefully, placing it on his shoulder. The cub purred weakly, rubbing its tiny head against his wooden cheek. The touch made him smile. "Let's go find your mother," he said. As he walked, the jungle changed around him. The path became brighter, filled with beams of light filtering through green leaves. Butterflies danced above puddles, and parrots flew from branch to branch. Every sound felt alive again, as if the forest was cheering him on. He stopped by the river to let the cub drink. Its reflection shimmered on the surface, tiny but fierce. "You see that?" he said, pointing at the reflection. "That's a future right there." "You'll grow strong again." The cub let out a small growl, trying to mimic strength, and the creature chuckled. It was a dry wooden laugh, but full of affection. After some time, the forest began to change, less dense, more open. The creature recognized the scent of wet grass and animal tracks. "We're close," he whispered. "Your kind lives near the old waterfall." But the cub's ears perked suddenly. It let out a small sound, a soft, hopeful cry. The creature froze. Then he heard it too, a low, distant roar echoing through the trees, deep and powerful. He turned toward the sound, his wooden eyes wide. "That's her," he said softly. "Your mother." The cub's body trembled, not in fear this time, but in excitement. It looked up at him as if to say, "Let's go." He nodded and started walking faster, his long steps steady, splashing through shallow water and brushing aside ferns. The roar came again, closer this time, followed by the faint rustle of heavy movement. When they reached a clearing near the waterfall, the creature stopped. Mist rose in shimmering waves, and through it a shape emerged, a full-grown tigress, her orange coat gleaming, her eyes fierce yet full of worry. The cub cried out, a sound that made the tigress's head snap toward them. She growled at first, cautious, but then she saw the small cub in the wooden creature's arms. Her growl turned into a deep, rumbling whimper. The creature's droopy eyes filled with emotion. "Go on," he whispered, kneeling down slowly. "She's waiting." He set the cub gently on the ground. It limped forward, then faster, then ran, throwing itself into its mother's front paws. The tigress nuzzled it fiercely, licking its fur, crying low sounds of relief. The creature smiled, wooden tears glimmering like dew on his face. "You're home," he whispered. The waterfall thundered softly in the background, like the steady heartbeat of the jungle. Mist hung in the air, glowing golden under the morning sun. The creature stood a few steps away, watching the tigress and her cub embrace in the shimmering light. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, his long wooden arms hanging by his sides, eyes glistening with quiet joy. The cub looked back once, mewing softly, as if to say, "Thank you." The tigress turned too, meeting his gaze. For a long, still moment, no words were needed. The forest spoke for them. In the sound of water, in the rustle of leaves, in the sigh of wind. The wooden creature smiled gently, the corners of his wooden mouth curving like a carved crescent. "You're safe now," he whispered. "That's all that matters." He turned to leave, his feet making soft creaks against the moss-covered ground. But before he could take another step, a low rumble filled the clearing, not from the waterfall this time, but from deep within the earth itself. He paused, tilting his wooden head in surprise. The trees began to shimmer, their leaves glinting with a faint golden light. The forest was glowing. A soft breeze stirred, circling around him, carrying the whispers of nature itself. "You have done well, child of wood," the wind seemed to say. "You carried kindness in your heart, though no one made you." The creature looked around in awe, his eyes wide and shimmering. "Is that you?" he asked softly, his voice trembling with emotion. The forest answered in the rustle of vines and the sparkle of water droplets floating upward. The light gathered in front of him, forming tiny, glowing orbs that drifted toward his chest. He gasped quietly as the golden lights touched his wooden skin, sinking gently into the grain lines. Warmth spread through him, not just on the surface, but deep inside his heartwood. A small carving began to glow faintly on his chest. A symbol shaped like a tiger's paw and a leaf intertwined. The voice of the forest echoed softly once more, like a mother's whisper. May this remind you of the life you saved. You are one of us now, not just made of wood, but of heart. The creature looked down at the glowing mark, his wooden eyes misty with tears. Thank you, he murmured. I only did what was right. He turned back toward the tigress and cub. They were still watching him, the cub now sitting proudly beside its mother, tail flicking. The tigress gave a low, respectful rumble, bowing her head slightly. The creature smiled, his wooden face illuminated by sunlight. Goodbye, little one, he said. Grow strong, live free. He took one last look at the waterfall, at the place that had changed him, and then began to walk away, deeper into the jungle. The forest seemed to open for him as he passed. Branches moved aside, flowers bloomed where his feet touched the ground, and fireflies followed him like tiny stars. His slouched shoulders were lighter now. For the first time in his life he didn't feel alone as the mist swallowed his figure. Only his voice lingered, faint but full of peace. Maybe kindness is what makes us real. And with that, the talking wooden creature disappeared into the emerald glow of the forest, leaving behind only the echo of his wooden footsteps and a world slightly better than before.